Morning traders, Edge with high-tech trading analysis. This morning I'm going to do an update video on my drawbar. I've made several enhancements since the first two videos that I've made, and I need to put out an update video is long overdue. So let's jump right into this. To apply the indicator to the chart, I'm going to look. My indicators will appear probably very close to the top. This morning we're just going to look at the drawbar, and I'm going to apply it to, this happens to be a 5-minute crude chart. I'm not connected to data. It's a holiday weekend. It's okay. I'll be able to show you all the features that are involved in this if you can follow along and try to duplicate what I am doing in a similar fashion. I mean, you're not going to be able to take the highs and the lows in the same chart, but that will give you a feel and some experience in working the features of the indicator. So you can see that we applied the indicator to the chart, and you're going to notice a little icon that's applied to the NinjaTrader toolbar at the top. Right now it's grayed, which means that it's hidden by default. If I left click that icon, a menu will come up. Now, for right now, I'm just going to quick and easy say select all. You can see the select does not check. Unselect, unselects everything. Select, selects everything. Yes, these do not stay checked when you do that. At this point, you have the ability to show this, to hide this, or to cancel out of this. For some of you that were involved in this in the beginning, I didn't have a cancel, which lets you cancel out without refreshing your chart. So in any case, select all, show. This is going to add another toolbar on top of the NinjaTrader toolbar with all of these icons going across. Now I'm going to try to explain most of these as we go along. What I'd like to start off with, I'm going to skip some of these here in the beginning, and I'm going to start with just our draw objects. Okay, as you can see, if we click on NinjaTrader's original pencil and the drop-down icon, you can see that the icons here and the icons in my drawbar are extremely similar. They're the same. That's by purpose. Most of these up here are nothing more than a duplication of these icons, so that if you left click, say, this line, well, first of all, if you hover over any of the icons, it will tell you what those icons are. Okay, so if I left click on the line, I can draw a line. If I left click on a rectangle, I can draw a rectangle. Notice that my pencil is still in draw mode. If I right click on the screen, it will take me out of draw mode. So as I get in and look at some of these drop down menus for some of the objects, you'll see as I come back down to my chart, I'm still in draw mode, and I might not want to be. Just right click on your chart. All gone. Okay, this icon here, same as the icon in your drop-down list. Remove all draw objects. I'll be doing that quite a bit. So let's scrunch the chart and let's take a look at kind of what we have and what we can do. The first thing I want to look for is kind of my midpoint or a turning point, and all I did was click horizontal line. I'm going to say that area right there. See, I've got it comes down and stops here, comes up and stops here, it's stopped here. I'm going to say that is going to be a significant area. This was the area we broke out of. This was the area that was resistance to the top, or now it's support. So let's take a, well, first of all, let's take a line. And we will go from the highest high down to what we're considering our support. Now, this is what we're going to do to try to capture a range. Now, this is just quick and dirty demonstration. If we use the drop-down icon, the same icon that we drew the line with, we now have a drop-down or a little arrow associated to it that we can do many things with it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show line labels. Now, I'm going to come down here, and since that seems to be backwards, we're going to redraw it from bottom to top. By showing the line labels, I now show a range of that line. If I hover over the show lines, I can also show the slope of that line. Now, slope is a little relative in that if I change my vertical or horizontal axis, that slope's going to change. But an old-time customer asked me to add that in the beginning of this project, and I did. So I don't want to get too much into the methodology of how that might be used or why that's there, but you see the range and the slope of this particular line on the chart panel that it's drawn on, or on the chart for the current scaling that I have it set to. Now, if I use the drop down again, my next thing is to extend the lines. I can extend the lines from the high and the low to go across to give me my support levels, or to give me at least an extension of the line that I've drawn. If I come down again, I can show this is an odd enhancement, a perpendicular line. What this will do is it will place a perpendicular line off your end point of your line. So at whatever angle this happens to be coming, this line will draw a perpendicular line the same length as the line itself. For now, I'm going to unhide that particular one. We show our line midpoint. We drew a line from here to here. We're now extending the top and the bottom lines. We're also extending a line off the midpoint. So we have a range. We have the midpoint of our range. I show 50% and 100% forecasts. We have a line that we've drawn from here to here. It's 294 ticks. This is the midpoint of our line. This is our 50% extension from the line. So if we went from the distance from here to here is the same distance as here to here. Draw a line from here to here. Our 100% forecast is nothing more than the range from here to here, extending it down to the bottom. Now, excuse me, we extend it both to the top and to the bottom. And now by drawing a line, extending the line, showing the midpoints, and showing our forecasts, we now have let's call it a range of areas that crude seems here in the last 5 days to be trading against. We're trading from here up to the midpoint. Kind of backs up, gathers some steam, comes up, and we drew our range. From here it comes back to our midpoint, comes back to the bottom of our range, extends back to 50%, extends back to the 100, comes back to the 50. So idealistically, what I'm trying to do here is capture the oscillations of the market and the ranges of the market that I'm looking at, and possible areas of interest as far as both entries and exits. If I were looking at this and it's coming up and let's just say it's taking out this midpoint here, it's taking out this area right here, comes back up, holds, and takes off, where could I expect this to go? Well, I expect this to come up to 54, or I expect this to come back down to 51. It's going to touch one of these lines before it touches the other. Now, if I happen to be on the long side, you could try to capture some type of long right here, put your stop underneath here, and try to play this up maybe to the midpoint of this. I mean, this particular range that I have set in crude looks like it happens to be about $1.50. You know, if you've got a 300 tick move, half of that, these are $1.50. So what you could do if you wanted smaller ranges is you could draw another line to show your areas between that. So as we can see, this seems to be half. I mean this isn't drawn just real great. That's pretty close. So now if I were to open my chart up and look more on a daily type time frame, what I'm looking for is, and we didn't get our touch down here, it was back here. So we're coming up, we're playing in this area, we're heading upwards. I see the range and the oscillations of the market that I'm looking at. Okay, this wasn't really for methodology, this was more for the enhancements of the indicator itself. We extend the lines, we show the labels, line midpoint, 50 and 100% forecasts. I also have on here a fib zone. What this is doing is I'll break this up and we'll come back over here to the area we drew. Make this a little one. We drew a line from here to here. This is giving me, by selecting my fib zone, what I've done is I've kind of placed a Fibonacci retracement within the 0 and the 100% of the line. Now, the middle line is 50%. The green goes from 45% to 55%. Then I go from 55 to 618. Then I go from 618 to 786. Then I go from 786 to 886. Then I go from 886 to 100. And the same way on the bottom. So if I were to take a Fibonacci, we were to draw from the top to the bottom, these don't show up real well. Let's just make this something that you, whoops. Excuse me. I think you can see that blue one. These turquoise on this particular type of screen you can't see real well. So, come on, Steve. We don't have a magenta. So, 50%. This is 55. 618, 786, 886. 100. Also above and below is a 127.2 and then I give you about 5 degrees here, so it would go up to 32.2. You have a little range here. 161.8 up to about 166.8. So you've got a 5 degree range here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. Now, I do that. You see all these lines? The lines start to clutter my chart. I've done this mainly for myself. Now, I don't use fibs a lot, but I've done this mainly for myself because this is less intrusive on my chart for me to look at. Now, by default, this is drawing the zones or the fibs between the start and the end point of my line. What I can also do now is hover over this, and now I can extend those fibs out to the right side of my chart as well. So now through using my line tool, it can act like a Fibonacci retracement for me. Now, they are not adjustable. These are hard-coded. The colors are currently hard-coded. You can't change the fibs that I'm using, and you can't change the colors that I'm using. You can, on the other hand, in the indicator, come into the properties of the drawbar, and here where it says line and Fibonacci opacity, you can adjust the opacity. The opacity of the line is from 0 to 255. So if I adjust that to 100, you can see that that is going to be a more prominent type of area on your screen. But as far as the numbers that I'm using, they are not adjustable and probably won't be adjustable. When I look at a fib, this is what I look at. And I'm probably just not going to go through the trouble of I'll explain that a little later when we get into the property settings that I was just at. Anybody that was using this indicator a month ago noticed that when you open the properties setting of your of this particular indicator, there were hundreds of choices. I mean, literally, in this last update, I have hidden 150 different options that were, some of them were actually a read-only type storage container, some of them were for your checkboxes, some of them for the options of the drop-downs. It was just, it's an extremely feature-rich type of indicator, and I had to take some of that information out of the properties because it was just getting overwhelming. So that's our fibs. I'm going to take those off, and then the last thing I'm going to choose here is I've added a rectangle to my line. So by choosing the rectangle, we actually draw a rectangle around the line we drew. Now if I come down and hover over that, I allow you to show the horizontal midpoint of that rectangle if you'd like. If you come back up to the drop down, I allow you to show the vertical midpoint of that rectangle if you'd like. I am going to also add a diagonal line in the opposite direction so that you can box this rectangle. I don't know if I'll do that anytime soon, but I was playing with this the other day and said, you know, that would be a decent feature too for the geometric players that want to follow the slope of this. I allow you to fill that rectangle. So now by drawing a line, by taking this line, coming from here to here, you have another rectangle type of tool. And I allow you to now extend the fill of the rectangle off to the right, just like your rectangle tool. I've done this on a couple objects now, and the reason why that I've done this is all of my icons are an all or none, meaning I cannot now select a line and have it just a line. The options that we choose on each of these icons, on each of these draw objects, will be applied to every single object of that same type. So I cannot draw a line that isn't formatted exactly the way that I have it here. Now I got into a problem when I get a little further on and show you the rectangle aspect of things. When you have the rectangle, I did this mainly so that I could use this as my ranges, definable ranges, instead of the rectangle. I will use the I'll get to the rectangle, but I will use the rectangle. Let's just say I come up here and I draw an area from here to here, and let's just make the area color brown, for instance. And let's come in and color fill that region, and then let's show our lines. I will use my rectangles as how I draw supply and demand zones per se. Sometimes I don't want a midpoint and I don't want extensions, but I need to be able to do both. So if my rectangles are built the same way that my line was built, I'm not able to do that. As I go on, you'll see that I've added this same type of feature to the arrow line and some of the other things here. So that allows me to get around that. So first of all, let's go back, and we haven't gotten to that yet. We'll get rid of that. What you'll have noticed here is the line that I drew is gone. Or is it? If I middle click the icon itself, the draw object icon, I now can hide all of the objects that I've drawn for that line. Meaning, if I were to left click here and draw another one here, and come back up and draw another one here, and now I've got all kinds of lines on my chart. Let's draw one more. I'm only doing this because now we took what we'll call major areas. We'll turn the extend fills off, and now I have more of minor areas in the rotation ranges of this particular market. This is quick and dirty, but this looks pretty good. Looks like it's rotating from here to here, back up to here, then to here, then back to here. It looks like those ranges and those levels would probably be significant for crude in the upcoming days anyway. This will change as time goes on. I'm just trying to capture some of this. This is 52 to 25. That's 75 ticks. If I can capture a movement from here to here within a day, or from here to here or here to here, if I can do that on a contract or two, I've had a good day. Again, if I right-click on that icon, you can see that it changes the icon to a darker shade, which means that that is hidden. If I middle-click it again, I haven't lost anything. All I'm doing is hiding what I've drawn to have a clean chart. Okay, I have just a Microsoft mouse. It is a 2-button mouse with a middle scroll wheel. I have software in my control panel that allows me to go in and set my middle mouse scroll wheel that when I click it, it acts as a middle mouse button. Some mice come with 3 buttons. Some mice come with 2 buttons and a scroll. In all actuality, I probably just lied. I have 3 or 4. I have 4 buttons, and I have 5 buttons on this thing. I have 2 buttons and a scroll, and then I have a button right behind the scroll that actually it doesn't do anything other than cause my scroll wheel to either click or spin freely. And then I have 2 buttons on the side of my mouse that can be a back for Internet Explorer. You can actually go into the software and program them however you want. But $5 USB mouse from Micro Center, Newegg, whatever, Microsoft, Logitech, whatever, as long as you can set up the scroll wheel as a middle mouse click, you're good to go. If you do not have a middle mouse click, you are not going to be able to utilize the features of my indicator. Everything has been now standardized for a middle mouse click to show and to hide. So as you can see, as we look at these icons up here, several of them are darker shade gray. That means they are hidden or not being used, and I have to middle mouse click that to be able to show them or to hide them. Now I'll come back and talk about these features over here. I'm taking a little bit too long to get through the features of what we've done here. Now, the only other thing that is associated with, I've thought of a better way. I actually have done it with a couple of my other indicators, but there is an auto hide with lines. If I uncheck that and I hide my indicator, you'll notice, let me get rid of some of my other objects real quick. What that does is it actually hides the object but leaves anything that I have selected. So I can now come back and turn, let's just say that I wanted to turn all of this stuff off. I don't even need to show the rectangle. This has hidden everything except for the choices that I have hidden, that I have selected, excuse me. And it's hidden the draw object itself. Now you say, well, why would I want to do this? Well, there's times if you, maybe not so much with this line, because the line doesn't obstruct any of your drawings. But as we go further down the line and we look at the ellipse, and we look at the rectangle, and we look at the triangle, and we look at some of our other objects, sometimes they can add clutter. Maybe all I want to see are these lines, and I didn't want to see the triangle that built the ABCD or this. You know, we'll get to that portion. Okay, I believe that probably covers pretty much of the line. So I'm just going to hide that, but we need to go back and auto hide that again. Now let's take a look at the ray. Let's take a look and say that I'm going to draw a ray between here and here and here until right about there. Now, I'm just looking at this historically, and just something that I see that looked like the trend that we were on for a while for the first couple weeks, for the first couple days of last week. Okay, we're coming down, we're We're touching the trend. We're breaking above it. It's kind of holding, breaks below it, comes back and rides that trend line all the way down with several touches until it finally breaks back up and starts going on to the upside. However you draw your, it doesn't matter. I'm just showing you some features here. The same type of thing. We use a drop down and show our labels. So we can see from the point that we started the ray to the point that we ended the ray was 367 tick range, and it was 32 degrees. Now, I have not gone in and allowed you to turn the degree off, although I will probably add that feature to everything that's got a degree so that some of them already have it, some of them don't. It's just a matter of remembering to go back and give you a choice to be able to turn that on and off. I can do the same type of thing from an extension. Okay, I just picked this line, but we can now, in looking back over, it looks like I can see why we were reversing off of that, because if you really want to think about it, that is probably a support area all the way down to the bottom of that candle. I would want to use more of a 15 or a 60-minute chart to define that area more than this 5-minute chart. But so we're extending the lines off of our start and our end point. We're extending them out, and I didn't mention in the line itself, but in the line when we show labels, the 6, 8, 10, and 12, that is the font for my labels. So I can make them bigger, I can make them smaller, however you like to see them. I'll leave them this big for this demonstration. Maybe that was difficult to see a minute ago. The number to the left of that is a tick offset, meaning that is the number of ticks that this particular line is away from the current price. Now, even though this says 52, and it says current price is 65, and this says 13, and I'm not connected to data. This is a weekend. When price is actually moving up and down, these numbers are correct. I currently don't offer a way to hide those, but sometime in the future I'll probably add that to all of it. It's kind of frivolous stuff, and as I mentioned, I've gone through 23 upgrades for this now. Okay, so let's hide that. What else do we have? Midpoint, same type of thing that the line has. 50% projections, 100% projections. Now, as you can tell, I'm not a big fib guy, but I do believe the market moves in ranges. I tend to use 50 and 100% for what it is that I look at. So you're going to see on every one of these objects that I extend things. I show midpoints and I extend things up 50 and 100. If you want to see the fib zones between the 618 or whatever, draw a fib on your chart, or use my line tool and draw the fib zone so that you can see those in between your ranges. And then the same kind of thing as far as the auto hide goes. If I take that auto hide out and hide that indicator, my lines are left, but my ray is gone. I don't even have to turn the labels on. I can just leave my lines if I want. All depends on the options that you choose here. Okay, let's hide that.